Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to day 3 of Northamptonshire Health and Care Partnership Wellbeing Festival. Hello, my name is Robert Friend from Northamptonshire Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, and my role today is to facilitate this virtual Wellbeing Festival live session. I'm supported here today by colleagues as shown. We're all here to facilitate and support the session and ask on your behalf any questions you may have of our presenters. This live event is part of a wide range of diverse events running across this week as part of our virtual Wellbeing Festival, to give us all tips and tasters to help our health and wellbeing as we continue to work through this pandemic. Before I introduce our live session, today I wanted to remind you that if you have any questions for the presenters today, please put these in the question box and we'll do our best to answer these questions at the end of the session. You can also like questions which have been asked by others. Already within the question box, you will find a link for you to provide us with your email address so we can send you directly a link after the session for your feedback. We really want and value your feedback. The live session will run for about 60 minutes, which includes times for questions. There is also the possibility that the session could run over, but that's okay. This session will give you an introduction to Action for Happiness and the 10 keys to happier living. It will talk through ways to introduce these into your life to support your well-being and the well-being of those around you. Finally, it will highlight the local Northamptonshire Action for Happiness activities and how you can access these. This session has been delivered by David Smart and Susie Dion from Action for Happiness Northants. So without any further ado, I will hand over to David and Susie.
Brilliant. Well, welcome, and so I'm David Smart. I've been a GP for 30 years this year, in fact, and for 20 of those years I really focused on pretty much a deficit model, looking at what's wrong with us. In the last 10 I've focused on what's right with us, and really following on from the Foresight report and 5 ways to wellbeing, and now the 10 keys, which go just a little bit deeper and just celebrating the work we're going to be talking about in Action for Happiness locally. So next slide, please. Now, so this is what we're going to be covering. So Robert, I think, has given a bit of a guidance here about that, but we're going to really talk about what Action for Happiness is about. It's an international charity. And then we're going to gain an overview of the 10 keys to happier living and really open up that for the resources that are available for locally and nationally, and really hopefully encourage you all to take a bit of a personal action towards this. Next slide, please. I have to say that a bit earlier in my talk. So really this is, what is happiness? This whole concept of what we mean by it is, are these some of the things that we think about with happiness when we talk about this? The next slide. And it's really this really considering what really makes us happy, and that's what we want to focus on at the beginning. So just maybe just a moment just to think, what makes you happy? You know, is it those pictures of holidays or those quick fixes? And there's 2 types of happiness. The previous slide described a lot of what one might call hedonic happiness, which is a quick fix and it hits our opiate receptors. But next slide, please. But what we're really trying to think about is a more eudaimonia happiness. That means more than this just a fleeting emotion. It's something that's long lasting, a deep sense of flourishing, not a mere pleasurable feeling or fleeting, an optimal state of well-being. And this correlates quite deeply with well-being and with well-being and health. And so, next slide, please. Bringing people together has really enabled Action for Happiness to be launched. This is an international charity, and it's really the aim of building a happier and kinder society together. And I think it's a theme that hopefully some of us have noted in lockdown, that there's been a change of attitudes and a change of how we deal with life, and recognising we need to be more connected in different ways, virtually. And that's a huge change for us. But it's really been around now for nearly a decade, and it's really trying to bring together resources which we hope will share with you a little more of the detail. But so it's an international charity, and the patron is the Dalai Lama, and Lord Layard is there, and Mark Williams, the chief executive, that middle bottom slide. Next slide. So this really is what the side, yes, that is right, it is next slide. So we need to shift our culture and values, and that's a real call, I think, that most of us will perceive from lockdown and COVID, this transformational change. How do we do this? How do we move from human doings to human beings, and actually just being more and just connected more? So this is a question, but I guess one of the questions may be, why? Why should we do this? Well, I think one of the key things is, next slide please, the opportunity around our health. Well, this is incredibly relevant currently, that you're half as likely to catch a cold virus, that's good research there from Cohen, that if you have good well-being, positive overall health, well, that's what the NHS is all about, but huge advantage to cardiovascular health, and the overall to reduction in death. So positive well-being has this eudaimonia well-being has a major impact. And so, for me as a GP, that's something I really would, if I could get people to more of this is what I'd be prescribing. And indeed, that is what I am trying to prescribe more focus on this. And I will say probably at least twice, but the NHS makes only about 15% of difference to health outcomes. Behaviour change makes about 40%. So this matters. So next slide, please. That matters not only to health, but also to performance. And so you can see here that for people who have better well-being, they're 12% more productive at work. And that's a significant change. So all of the HR directors are thinking, goodness, that is a big issue that we need to address. And certainly for me as a GP, as an employer, that matters. So we've put things in practice in our own place of work at Leicester Terrace. But you can see a lot of companies now have a lot on well-being, and you can see how it matters to the bottom line. For every £1 you invest on well-being, you actually get a £3 return, slightly more now, some of the studies are suggesting. But then this key aspect relevant to the healthcare is you make faster and more accurate diagnosis. That's certainly something we need in healthcare. And tired doctors, there are problems for their care of their patients. We need to be really recognising this. And then higher future income. So it matters to our children and how we invest in their well-being. And actually happens to have a schools programme as well, which is actually led by two local people, Peter Harper and Val Payne. The next slide, please. And what we'll be talking about later is some of the courses which are available. And this has an impact on our society and societal change. The What Matters course, for Run by Action Happiness, it's an 8-week course, but that changed more pro-social behaviour by about 18%, which is a huge health advantage. That is a massive health advantage. So, but more pro-social behaviour for people who have good well-being, better financial control, so in other words, less likely to go off and do that quick fix of shopping just to cheer themselves up temporarily, and less likely to have road accidents, which is good, and more likely to participate in votes. So all of this is good for our society. And so next slide, please. So this is the key pledge of Action for Happiness. Will try to create more happiness and less unhappiness in the world around me. And so that's one of the key things we're trying to do, to look after our own well-being, but recognising that we're all connected and how we can then connect with others and bring in a little bit more of well-being to others. And I encourage people to think of the healthcare partnership, how we can do that for ourselves and our own workplace, but also the people we serve in our care pathways. And we'll be talking a bit about that later on. So I'm now going to hand over to, oh no, I'm going to continue this bit. Slide slip there, anyway. So this all comes from a great book, 10 Keys to Happier Living. So next slide. And this is from Vanessa King and The Great Dream. So this is the 10 keys, and what I found more helpful about this, it is rememberable, that you can actually use an acrostic. The Great Dream spells the 10 keys to happier living. So as Malcolm Gladwell described, you want something that has stickability, and so I've certainly found this as stickable. And for those of you used to the 5 ways to well-being, you'll note that they're actually pretty much the same, although things like exercising in Action for Happiness terms includes sleep and taking a bit more care of your body, and when you drill down into the key. So they're pretty much the same as the 5 ways to be great, and then the other 5 dream more attitudes, and they come from positive psychology. And that, if you want all the detail and the research, that's in that book by Vanessa King. So just a bit of a moment of reflection before I hand over to Susie. What stops you adopting the 10 keys to happier living in your own life? So what is it that really stops us? And just before I lay a bit of moment is, I've had 2 episodes of anxiety and depression where I've had treatment myself, and psychologists said to me, Dave, why are you taking care of yourself? What stops you as an intelligent man taking care of yourself? And I guess that's a question I just posed to you. What stops us taking care of ourselves? What stops us adopting the 10 keys in our own life? So I'm going to hand over to Susie now.
Thank you, David. So I'm Susie Dion. I've been Action for Happiness Northamptonshire coordinator for 3 years, and a lot of the work we do is all done voluntarily. But I'm going to talk you through the first 5 keys of the 10 keys to happier living. And just one thing I wanted to say to you is, when I'm often out in the community, I definitely say to people, this is not about doing all 10. It's about looking at 2 or 3 to adopt within your life to start off with. I mean, lots of people do the 10 without even knowing that they're doing the 10 once they know the 10. But it's don't be overwhelmed by the 10 keys. I'll talk you through the first 5, and I'll give you some ideas about how you can adopt those into your life. Okay, so the first one is giving. Making other people happy also makes us happy. So doing little bits of kindness and thinking about how you go through life and just helping your community and helping your friends actually makes us happy. So I know from when I've been out and about through the lockdown, when we were allowed to go out for walks, it's about thinking about how you are with people. I did quite a lot for my neighbour who was shielding, and that made me feel good as well as helping her out and made her happy. So giving, I think, is a great way, and it's the first key. And like I said, a lot of the work that David and I do is voluntarily, so we feel like we're giving back to our community and giving back to Northampton. So the second key is relating. Now, this has been quite difficult through the COVID-19 crisis. For people that have been able to continue connecting through the internet, it's been great. And I've had Zoom calls with friends to connect. I've even at the weekend organised a Zoom call with friends of mine that have been in Spain, which has been brilliant. So, but don't forget people that aren't internet savvy, and do do it the old-fashioned way and pick up the phone. It's about connecting with people and making sure that everybody's okay. So if you think about it, maybe today you might want to pick up the phone this evening to a friend that you haven't spoken to for a little while. And also relating is what I'm exactly doing now. I'm relating to you, the audience, and hopefully you'll be happy with what Action for Happiness has on offer. Okay, on to the one that I'm not so good at, and which is exercising. David's smiling at me. You can't see him at the moment, but David's smiling at me. So this is the one I'm not, as I say, not so good at, but I have been better through the COVID-19 crisis. I have been out for walks most days, you know, so I have been active, and I've coordinated that with when we could meet up with people. I've coordinated it and done walks with people that I haven't seen for a while. So that's going back to the second key, which is relating. But exercising is not just about exercise, it's about taking the time to relax, thinking about what you're eating, and also your sleep patterns. Lots of people through this pandemic have had issues around sleep. So we've been sending out a coping strategies newsletter, and that was all about sleep a couple of weeks ago and how to get into that routine of being able to sleep. So I'll move on to the next one now, which is awareness. So living life mindfully. And again, this is about taking time to yourself, taking time when you are on those walks to look at nature. And like David and myself this morning, we were both quite nervous about doing this presentation. So we both took the time to do the 3-minute breathing space, to live life mindfully, and to calm ourselves to be able to present this. So, you know, lots of ways you can do this. You can just take a few minutes each day just to look around you, notice nature. I think it's what's been brilliant about the lockdown is people have slowed down, and I've done lots of walks through my local park, which is Abingdon Park, and it's been lovely to take notice of the nature in the park and look at the new ducklings that have been about and the, you know, the great wildlife that's within that park. The last one I'm going to talk about is trying out, and this doesn't have to be big. So lots of people have taken the time through the COVID-19 crisis to learn a new skill. And one of the things that I've done, which absolutely petrified me to start off with, was Zoom calls and webinars. But I've now learnt how to do this, and I've taken the time to find out how to do it. And now I quite enjoy doing these calls and these webinars and talking to people through online. But lots of other people have learnt a language or taken up photography. So it's just finding the time to lose yourself, as it says, in what you love. So try something new, try something out. If you fail, it doesn't matter, just give it a try. I'm now going to hand back to David, who's going to talk you through the second part, which is the dream part.
Thanks ever so much, Susie. So the first 5, very similar to the 5 ways of wellbeing, and now that's great. Now moving to the attitudinal aspects of the more internal, maybe aspects of the great dream. And so to answer one of the questions on the chat, the direction I've taken up mindfulness and setting small goals is one of the key things, just to have a really small goal. And you know, goals matter, and it's making these habits. And how do we get into this is trying to make these into daily habits. So for me, having a direction, I try and do the mindfulness just before I start surgery. So that's been a 8 o'clock start for me, doing the 3-minute breathing space. And that 8 o'clock pause is something I do even when I'm not in surgery. So it's become a bit of a habit. So that's something. That direction also means goals, and we all know that dopamine surge we get when we tick off our tick list, and we're just going to do another tick. That makes a thing. I like SMART-E goals. I like SMART goals because my name's Smart. But that SMART-E goals is you add on interesting and enjoyable to the SMART acronym, and I think that's also just helpful for us just to have a bit of things, but it's small steps. It's really looking at these as small steps, because if we do try and take too big a step, then we're likely to fall over. So that's a big problem. So next slide. So that's the direction. Resilience. Find ways to bounce back. Now, boy, how much do we need this one at the moment? And resilio means actually literally to jump back into place and jump back from adversity. And I think one of the key things is, rightly as it says here, if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. And so our response to stress has a really big impact to how its effect on us physically. So if we can see things as being, it's okay not to be okay, if we can see things as a bit of a challenge and focus on some good things as well as some of the bad things that are going to be there, not to deny them, but just to acknowledge there's other good things going on in life and try and review the glass as half full, then that's going to be helpful. So next slide, please. And I think that's really this bit on emotions, that actually we do try and see the life as glass as half full, and our attention really matters where we have our attention. I love the tale of the person, the dad taking his son into the outback and just talking about life, and he says, talk about the black wolf and the white wolf, just talking about these aspects of how he lives, and he says, well, which is the one that creates problems for you? It's the one you feed. I've missed that story, but the point is, well, how do you live your life and focus on the good things is a key thing in life, and we just need to relate to that. Next slide, please. And so it's really acceptance. That's one of the key things we need to be aware of, is being kind and compassionate to ourselves. A lot of work from Paul Gilbert is absolutely key here about compassion, and we all know about compassion-focused therapy. And Kristen Neff and the work she's done around self-compassion. And Kristen Neff's website is brilliant. This is certainly something that I personally had to look at, and just being aware of our strengths and weaknesses, just aware of how we can accept ourselves and be positive. That's a really key aspect that I think is helpful for moving forward. So these are the internal aspects, and then the last one of the great dream is meaning. And meaning is being part of something bigger. We were just talking earlier with the team about different football teams, and that's being part of something bigger. You're part of a group that supports one club. But it also includes spirituality, which is a key aspect. We know a lot of people have been leaning on towards their faith, or leaning towards their values as they look at how to put this into practice through lockdown. But I love, when you think about meaning, I think the key aspect is really this aspect from Viktor Frankl, that those who have a why to live can survive almost anyhow. So those who have a why to live can survive almost anyhow. And he was obviously a survivor of the Holocaust, and talks very meaningfully in his great book. And so next slide, please. So really, just putting these into practice. How do we do this? And one of the key things about the Great Dream is, as I keep saying, it started small, and as Susie's rightly said, it's a menu. So it's not you don't eat the whole menu all at once. You take it in bite-sized pieces and bits that are relevant for you at that time. So it's actually, that's the way I would look at the Great Dreams, taking it in bite-sized pieces. But this is just a lovely example of how doing small things can make a difference. And so this is a randomized placebo-controlled trial, and it just really asked people, and I would encourage you just this one exercise to reflect on this, just to think about at night 3 things that went well for you that day, and just dwell on them for a little bit. 3 or 4 minutes for each one. You know, so if it's just, I went, you know, the sun was shining, well, maybe, you know, describe how the sun felt on your skin, you went out for a walk, and as Susie was saying, you may have seen some ducklings. Just you dwell on that for a little bit, and then that went well for you, that was really pleasurable. And you just go through those 3 things. And if you did this for a week, you can just see the impact. And so this is just a very simple exercise, probably 5 minutes just before you sleep, and then just that increase in well-being. But that's really unusual to see that. You can see this going up and increasing at 6 months. And having looked at a lot of research over a 6-month period, you don't see really that trend. It's how we focus and what do we look at, and in particular that aspect just before we dream and go into sleep, how we can frame that really key aspect of our life. So that's a little exercise which I'd really encourage you to do, just to think on 3 things at night just for a week. And so that's given you a bit of a rapid run through of the great dream. It's really very well contained on the website of Action for Happiness, so you can really source happiness and great ideas there. We just really want to really talk through some of the resources there are nationally and then locally, and how we're trying to put this into practice in our place-based approach in Northampton. And I'm going to pass over to Susan.
Thank you, David. So I'm now going to talk through the resources that are available for Action for Happiness, and then I'm going to talk through what's available locally, because we have become in Northamptonshire an exemplar site for Action for Happiness. So we've got lots going on around Northamptonshire, which I'll talk about a bit later, and how you can get involved. But first of all, I'll just talk you through the resources from the central team. So to sign up to the pledge that we talked about earlier, we have our own link, which is brilliant, because what that means is you can go straight to this link and you can sign up to the Action for Happiness pledge. And what that means as well is we can keep data on how many people have signed up in Northamptonshire, so we can see if we're making a difference in our local area. So you'll be asked to enter your name, your email, your location, and to take the Action for Happiness pledge. By doing this, you'll get and receive email updates with useful resources. And recently, what Action for Happiness Central team have been doing is been having talks by national speakers, which have been absolutely excellent to listen to. So I would highly recommend to sign up, because there's, you know, that it's not overly intrusive. You know, you won't get hundreds of emails, but it's just great to see what's going on a national level. Okay, one of these, we're really proud of these calendars. So Action for Happiness has a monthly calendar, and it looks at different aspects through the 12 months. And why we're really proud of it in Northamptonshire is it came from an idea of one of our local volunteers, Peter Harper. And he thought of an idea to do an advent calendar at Christmas, which had 31 days of looking at what you could do each day through December. And this caught on, and he was expecting it to be downloaded maybe 100, 200 times. I think it was downloaded 100,000 times in the first month. So Action for Happiness adopted it. And if you go to the Action for Happiness website, you can download this calendar each month, and it just gives you you can stick it on your fridge if you want, and it just gives you a daily activity to keep you on track with all the different activities that you can get involved with. There's also the smartphone app. So I've got this on my phone. So what this does is, if you download this onto your phone, each day, so each morning, it will send you a positive message, and then in the evening it will send you again a message about what you can, you know, a sort of kindness message at the end of the day. So at the start of the day, it generally is something about what you should do in the day, but then at night it's something more, I suppose, emotional. And so it's really good because it gives you nudges each day. And it's certainly sometimes when I've had a difficult day and I just get the little ping on my phone at night, it gives me a boost if I've had a difficult time or a difficult day. And just makes me reflect on what's happened during the day. So I highly recommend you downloading that app. Then again, for those people that aren't technically minding, we do have the old-fashioned way. So Action for Happiness have got posters that you can download, and I know in David's GP surgery they have a wall of Action for Happiness posters which get changed quite frequently depending on what the month is, and it generally looks at if it's jump back July, there'll be something around those activities. So again, you know, lots of people don't have access to the internet, so this is a way, you know, to get people involved that don't, you know, aren't technically minded and aren't online. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what really excites, I suppose, David and I about what's happening locally. So we have lots of stuff going on in Northamptonshire, which I will talk through now. So we have a lovely lady called Laura who looks after our social media accounts, and what I'd really like to do today is please follow us locally at Action for, so A for H Northants, please, because we're near enough at 1,000 followers, and it would be really great at the end of this week if we could get it up to 1,000. So please, if anything, could you do us a favour and follow us locally at A4H Northants, and then I will report back to the NHFT team that are helping us and supporting us through this, and they can let everybody know whether we did get up to 1,000 followers. One of the projects that I've been working on with Northampton Borough Council and Public Health is our network of happy cafes. So we already had 3 cafes within the county that had been set up, which is Heather's, which is on the Kettering Road, House of Dapper, which is on the Wellingborough Road, and then over in Kettering there's Johnny's Happy Place, which is part of YouthWorks. So they were already set up as happy cafes, and we have we put in a small funding bid with Public Health, and we're setting up 4 community happy cafes, which are going to be M's Cafe, which is in the Western Fayval Centre, Growing Together Northampton, which is the community hubs at Blackthorn, The Good Loaf, which have sites at Overstone Road and All Saints, and then we've got the Umbrella Fair, which is on the racecourse. We've set up those 4 cafes, and we were just about to go live in March when obviously lockdown happened, but we're really pleased to say that we're going to restart this project with those 4 cafes. The Good Loaf is going to reopen, and we're going to start redoing, we're going to start with the Good Loaf, and then the other 3 will reopen in September to start this project that we're planning. There are also pop-up cafes at Berrywood and St Mary's, Desborough St Giles and Northampton Borough Council. So I think you can probably see from the slide what they provide. They provide a friendly welcome. What we're looking at doing with the community cafes is what's called monthly get-togethers, which looks at one of the 10 keys each month. And then we've trained up the 4 cafes to provide the Practical Ideas 2-week course, which people can sign up to, and that introduces you in more detail around the 10 keys. So, and they'll have the postcards, and also we've just launched in Northamptonshire, and I don't know whether you'll be able to see this, but we've just had some tea coasters or beer mats done with the 10 keys on, which we will be distributing to the cafes once they reopen. I'm now going to hand back to David, who's going to talk you through what he's been up to with the social prescribers link workers.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Susie. And yes, we're really encouraged by the what's been happening locally and all of the things that are going on. But just I think people have asked, how do I do this? And I think it gives those little nudges that we just need to have. So actually for today's, on that app, it just says, be willing to ask for help when you need it and always. That's today's nudge from Action to Happiness on the app. So really with social prescriber link workers, this, for not everybody may know, but Northamptonshire was already thinking about social prescribing at scale, and they were working on this for some years. And then has come a new GP contract providing social prescribers per PCN initially, and then we've expanded that load, certainly our own PCN, to another 5. So we have 5 social prescribers in our own PCN, and other PCNs are doing the same, they're taking up more. So it means at least 16 in the county, and probably now moving up to around 23 social prescribers. And they do what it says on the tin, really. They prescribe social activities as a way of engaging people into and linking people to community assets. And we know from health, and I think NHFT have done a fantastic job in linking the voluntary sector and developing these community assets, but it's really how to do this from a GP surgery point of view, particularly focusing on long-term conditions, isolation, carers and people with low well-being. Those are the target group. But what we've done with working with our social prescribers as part of their induction, IMC Griffiths, who leads our programme within our federation, were able to do some training for all of the social prescribers across the county. So some of the social prescribers have taken that up elsewhere, but in particular, through supervision of going through case discussion, has gone through the mental health and social capital in discussions to really embed this. And then what we're really pleased is that we've actually been able to, using the wellbeing star outcome measure, which is the star which all of the social prescribers will be using, we've mapped on the 10 keys onto that, so that as part of their discussion with people, they're beginning to think through these 10 keys. And we know these 10 keys are evidence-based interventions that can both prevent episodes of depression getting worse, but also enable recovery. So they're good evidence-based interventions that can be used by the social prescribers. And then we put that onto the template. So it's actually on the template, and I have, if you look on our GPA website, that's GPA Northampton, and then just put in mental health, you come up with our GPA Federation website, and there's a wellbeing action plan. And what I've done is I've hyperlinked the 10 keys to local resources and national resources, so people can use this as a wellbeing plan, and that's something anybody could signpost people to. And on that GPA website, we've also got some films by the great Mike Scanlon, some micro films on there, so that's well worth looking at. And then the Launchpad is a template we've got in System 1 for GPs, which brings together all of these resources, the wellbeing plan, activity on referral, veterans program, so we can actually have one place where we can go to as a GP and then be able to signpost people, as well as signposting people to social prescribing. So we can both, if we feel this person is enabled and they can take on this, and they have that accessibility and ability to take on the program themselves, that we can just give them a straight referral, either through text now, as we're doing everything virtually, or literally just passing a prescription over, or we can make a referral to those people who we may not be able to take on activities, a social prescriber who can then support them in doing so. So real opportunity to enable people to gain access to local assets and the community offer, which we know is so much needed at this time, because we know that a lot of people are going to be really suffering with emotional distress as they come out of lockdown, and we know the anxiety of people in this uncertain, rather changing time. But it also maps onto courses. We've described some courses, but we're also aware that you have in NHFT, the Recovery College, IAPT have courses, the Wellbeing Education Network have courses, Learn to Be have courses, and the opportunity is to bring all these courses together on MyDOS, which is the My Directory of Service, and that is what the social prescribers will be linking to. So we hope that's going to be a real community resource, linking in with the Happy Cafes, and we think this is going to be a real offer to our local community in Northamptonshire. And the next slide, please. And fresh from yesterday, this slide was described, and it really is describing our place-based model. So Susie's been project manager for this place-based model over the last year. We just looked at 2 primary care networks in Northampton, and I've been involved in the clinical lead, and led by Giles West as the chair. And what we've been doing is trying to bring in a place-based model, in particular these population interventions, and then now linking it with our, the opportunity of these PCN link workers I've just described. And for those that may not be aware, that we have also signed up as a county council and a healthcare partnership, a programme called Spring, which we hope will be signed off finally at the end of autumn or beginning of next year. And that's another more bigger offer for social prescriber link workers. It also links to funding with the voluntary sector, so building capacity as well. And that is an evidence-based approach to decrease hospital admissions. And then building at the top to some sense of a collaborative care team. You can see that there's a recovery team down the left-hand side. We recognise as people come out of COVID, we're going to have to address something of a lot of people with COVID symptoms and their psychological needs. So that's the central triangle, and that we can deliver within our own federation. But what we're doing is that within the place-based approaches, aligning it to IAPT, and we've got great links with Sarah Clare from IAPT, and then moving some is also helping us with the Happy Cafes, so we'll have IAPT workers in the Happy Cafes, they can link in. But also, as we've said before, linking across all the courses that are available, so we can be aware of the offer to the community, and then linking that through social care and the offer that's happening with the 3 conversation model, moving social care to community assets. So this is a real opportunity for Northamptonshire, I think, to lead the way in this community offer and help people in their recovery and well-being. And in particular, one thing we're focusing on locally, and next slide please, is the opportunity for the healthcare staff, because we recognise, and I've said before, I've had my own lived experience, that we need to look after ourselves, and how do we enable this to happen. So we've bid for some funding from, in fact, 2 pharmaceutical companies initially to help set this up, but we're moving in with the University of Northampton and myself, Susie and Mike Scanlon, and our federation, linking together as an organisation really to deliver some local training around particularly primary care mental health, because we realise it's something that falls between a lot of stools, and we need to have something that can bring it together and train up the current workforce as well as a new emerging workforce for primary care with new paramedics and pharmacists and other people who may not have had any mental health experience, how we can support them in their learning. But in particular, championing voluntarily the Action for Happiness 10 keys. And so that's, you can see what we're trying to do there. So we hope that that's going to provide education to build on, as I said, the delivery model and also the courses that are available. So I hope that's given you an opportunity to be enthused about Northamptonshire. We're often not seen as celebrating, but we've obviously got great treatment-resistant depression with Alex O'Neill-Kerr, and so we've got a really good opportunity in Northamptonshire to move things forward. And so really this last question, really, on the 10 keys, overall, just thinking about 2 or 3 actions of those 10 things that you could do, and then you may have thought about, this is something you could take on. And the way I've done this personally is I've either gone down the list, just ticking things off, yes, I'm okay on that one, but direction for me, certainly as I'm coming up to retirement, I'm particularly thinking about my new direction, that's important. And maybe you've got another, that's one way of doing it, or you can use it as a wheel, and you can go around and think, how would I rate this, for my importance to my own life, and then you go around again those 10 things and think, what am I spending my time on? And you recognise that cognitive dissonance of things that you think are important to you, that you're not actually spending time on. And that may be another way that you could think of choosing 2 or 3 things that you may wish to take forward. But as we said, small steps, but regular steps. And I think certainly for me, first of the month, which is a very great opportunity today, I reflect on what am I doing next month and take some small steps in this way. And I'd encourage you to Again, maybe think about that pause. You think about 8 o'clock pause, and Anthony Selden, again, who talked about that from Action for Happiness quite meaningfully in one of his talks. So I'm going to stop there, and I think Susie now and I are open for questions, which we'd love to have some good questions, or any bad questions. We'd just love to have some questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Susie and David there. Once again, an amazing insight into Action for Happiness and those 5 stages to wellbeing. Really insightful, lots of information. And we've got some great questions for you. And the first question is, how do you create your own happiness, especially during this pandemic?
I think we could talk personally about how do we create our own happiness. I think it's what you focus on. I think is a key thing for me, that you can focus on, and I did in the first bit. I must admit, I'm nearly 60, so I was thinking of, was I going to get it, and was I going to die, really? And I was thinking, I then had catastrophic thinking, was there going to be a bed for me if I needed it? So all of that was very negative, you can imagine, and I got worried, not surprisingly. But then realising I was worried, then moving myself into using meditation, which I said is what I do, and exercise, which is what I do, I then was able to just reframe that, and actually now as I look more at the information, and I recognise I'm not actually a high-risk person due to my BMI and other factors. So it's actually, I think, what do you give your attention to? And I think, do we give our attention to our negative thinking, our negative thoughts, what might happen, or do we bring ourselves back into the moment? And we know that these things can help. We also know that you can't be happy all the time. So it's actually admitting that this is a really difficult time. But actually, what is it that can make me happier? It isn't 10 keys to happy living, it's 10 keys to happier living. So it's admitting we can be, it's okay not to be okay. And we did a webinar to 700 people the other day, frontline staff, saying exactly those words. It's okay not to be okay, but there are ways you can improve your well-being.
I just want to add to that. It's about also thinking about what your coping strategies are. And I mean, especially for me, my coping strategies are my network of friends, and also the fantastic steering group that is the Action for Happiness steering group in Northamptonshire. As I say, we've all had moments through the COVID-19 lockdown within the steering group. We've all had moments that we're not being able to see people, we haven't got the usual support, but we've done it the old-fashioned way. Sometimes we've picked up the phone, we've been texting each other. The Action for Happiness local group also have a WhatsApp group, and we've been sending each other different ways of coping, and just some really lovely things that have gone on. I mean, I sent round the other day, I picked up, I don't normally share stuff from Facebook, but there was a brilliant picture of a security guard outside Morrison's holding an umbrella over a Labrador, and it just made me smile. So I thought, oh, that will make the steering group smile. So I sent them a picture, and it's about just thinking about little things that people can do to keep their spirits up, I suppose.
Thank you so much. I saw that as well, and I think his comment was, you never know if dogs like the rain. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you both 3 questions in one, if possible, because they are quite linked. The first one is, how do we sign up for the newsletter? The second is, how can we volunteer for Action for Happiness? And the third one is there a course you can do locally?
Shall I start off with that, David?
I was going to let you go.
Yeah, so the newsletter was really interesting, actually. So what we were planning to do an event at the Grosvenor Centre on the 20th of March. And obviously that was just before lockdown, so we took the decision not to do the event because that's International Day of Happiness, and we came up with an idea of writing a newsletter. And I got sent so much information that I decided to split it up, and it became a weekly occurrence through the 12 weeks of lockdown. So it's now going to move monthly, but what I will do after this is I will contact the team that's organised this, and anybody that wants the newsletter, we can organise it through that. So I'm happy to share my email address after this and the slides so that people can find out. It's going to about 100 individuals at the moment, but then it's cascaded through their organisation. Volunteering, there are lots of things that people can do within the county. As I say, we've got a small steering group that coordinates all the Action for Happiness projects that go on. And again, happy to share my email address about how people might want to get involved. And then finally, as I talked about earlier, we've trained up the 4 community happy cafes to deliver what's called the Practical Ideas course, which is a 2-week course which introduces you to the keys. And that will be running, well, we're going to trial it in the Good Loaf in July to see how it works after the lockdown, because obviously there is some concern about whether people will come back to cafes straight away. And then the other 3 cafes will go live from September. So again, happy to share all this information through the newsletter and get it out to people. We are also going to be doing a communication strategy, because that's one thing that I'll be honest, we haven't done very well. We've got a brilliant social media person, Laura, who does all our social media posts, but we need to bring it all together into a strategy. So we'll be working on that over the next couple of months. David, do you want to add anything?
Just a couple of things. There are 3 key courses. Action for Happiness already has an Exploring What Matters course, and I did that a couple of years ago. It's run by volunteers. It's an 8-week course, and that shows a 19% change. I think I said that earlier about pro-social behaviour. So it's a really good evidence-based course. It's been evaluated by Oxford University and London School of Economics. So that's, you can just go to the Action Happiness website and they run it periodically. It's when volunteers, but they're not running it at the moment, obviously due to COVID, but when that gets going, that's one. Susie's already said practical ideas. We are looking at a bid for champions training, which is to expand what you've just heard, but to go through a lot more slowly and a lot more reflectively into 1.5-hour sessions, and really helping people to think about this for themselves, but also about how they can put this into place. And so we're hoping that bid would be accepted, and that would be an online course, moving that online. We recognise that obviously COVID's going to be around for a while, that we need to get this out there, particularly because obviously, as I've said, good wellbeing is good for our immune system. So I think those are the 3 key courses that I think we're hoping to really get into place in the community.
And sorry, I just need to add one little extra bit. The last 11 newsletters are all on the GPA website. So again, we'll share that link. So if people wanted to look back at all the newsletters that we've produced, there's lots of great ideas within them about coping strategies. In fact, one of my favourites was the Lego challenge, which we did, I think, about week 2, which was similar to the monthly calendars. We did a Lego challenge for children, and it was about making something out of Lego each day, and that was one of my favourites.
Thank you very much, Susie and David. Very, very informative there. Just before we go on to the next question, I'd just like to say that our mental health first aiders also champion Action for Happiness and the 5 ways to wellbeing. And if people do want to be brave and approach MHFAers for more information, they can do. And I think this question is really, really smart. What would be your advice to get mindfulness into your life?
Okay, I'll champion that from it. So I actually have done mindfulness for the last, that's one of the things I did do, which actually really transformed my life, really, I think, from my low well-being to the past. And I think the key thing is persistence. I think it's a bit like when, as an artist, if you had a paintbrush and the paints, the only thing that can really make a difference is practice. It sounds incredibly easy just to focus on the breath, And it is, in a way, but it is difficult because you just have to keep doing the practice, and it literally is doing your mindfulness practice on a regular basis. I use various techniques. There's Pelouse.com. You can do it online. That's a mindfulness course online. I initially had some training with my psychologist, and then I used Mark Williams' book, Finding Peace in a Frantic World. And for me, reading the first few chapters on the evidence base and then using one chapter a week and going through that, for me, that was an approach that also helped. And then you can, obviously, we've got the Oxford Mindfulness Centre locally, and they've got some great talks at the moment, so you could Google them, an Oxford Mindfulness Centre. But I think it's also then finding other people who are doing it and encouraging each other. But it is really the practice that makes the difference, and just trying to get it into habits and into your life, hooking it onto a habit. So for me, starting surgery, always a bit, just wondering what's going to come, who's going to come through the door and what you're going to be able to do. So me just hooking it to that link, and behaviourally, using the behavioural insight team, some of their nudges, and again, Action for Happiness have used a lot of evidence from the behavioural insight team, and that was one that I recognised I needed to hook it onto. So those are some of the things I've done and really encourage others to get to mindfulness into life. And we know for 19 minutes a day, it actually doesn't just transform your life, it transforms your brain. And so that actually is changing the hardware as well. So really good evidence base on mindfulness, and we'd encourage anybody to take that up.
Thank you. The next couple of things I'm going to read out are comments, and then we're going to finish with another question. So Helen Babb wanted to share that she always shares the calendar on the Trust Facebook page, Northamptonshire Health Visitors, on the 1st of the month. It's always received well, so thanks for doing them. Suzanne Johnson wanted to say that she signed up to the Action for Happiness app and loves receiving the quotes twice a day. She finds them really helpful, particularly, as you say, if you are having a difficult day. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Susie and David. I've got a question from Hannah because her internet was sort of cutting out. So she's just saying, can you explain a little more about Worth, Northampton, please? Because she had a dodgy internet and couldn't quite read the slide.
Okay, I mean, Worth is wellbeing organisational research training hub. So that's what we're trying to do. It's a tripartite organisation of Susie, myself and Mike Scanlon working together with our GPA Federation and the University of Northampton. And so what we did is we applied for some funding, we've got that. The aim is really to develop some training for frontline staff. And the aim is to enable frontline staff to be able to look after themselves, but also how they can put mental health and wellbeing into the care pathways. And so we'll be working with partners, including NHFT and others, in particular in the primary care setting, because we realise that there's a big need with the primary care network, DES, which is our new GP contract, with new workers coming out who really may not have had much mental health exposure, and we need to support them and in their care delivery. So I think that's a bit of it. I don't know if you want to say anything more, Susie, if I've covered the ground.
Just one more thing on that, and David mentioned obviously healthcare staff. We're also working with local authority colleagues around social care and care home staff, because obviously they've had a rough ride recently as well, and they've been on the front line. So we'll also be working with those colleagues to look at what wellbeing and education needs to go into those sectors as well.
Okay, thanks, Susie and David. Just before I hand back to Robert, we've just had something else come in from Chris Davison, who is one of our public governors for NHFT and is a champion for Action for Happiness. And he says he's happy to be approached for anything to do with Action for Happiness because he is part of the steering group as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. We've had a fabulous opportunity to hear directly from David and Susie, re Action for Happiness in Northamptonshire. I'm sure you will all join me in thanking both David and Susie for taking the time to join us today and sharing their learning, insights and experience. We are running a prize draw over the course of the week. In order to enter the draw, you will need to share your feedback for this session with us. Please click on the link in the question section to share your email address with us so that we can email your feedback. My colleagues have just posted this into the question section again. Feedback is a gift and completing the form will only take a few minutes. I'd just like to say a massive thank you to you and to everyone who has been working behind the scenes, and also for yourselves for doing the amazing hard work, determination and commitment, not only during the pandemic, but the difference that you make every day. Please check out the website to see the full range of fantastic activities available during the remainder of the week, and most of all, enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.